Pick your term: upheaval, earthquake, shellacking. No matter how you cut it, the political earth shifted this week. We'll explain what happened and what it means tonight on Washington Week.
I'm confident and I am hopeful because this is our movement. This is our moment. This is our morning in America.
Tuesday's election was not about Republicans, it was about the Democrats. They got a report card. They got an F.
I'm not recommending for every future president that they take a shellacking like I did last night. You know, I'm sure there are easier ways to learn these lessons.
No regrets. No regrets, because we believe we did the right thing.
There seems to be some denial on the part of the president and other Democrat leaders.
The winners, the losers, and the new faces.
We started a movement 18 months ago. It was a movement of the people, about the people, and for the people.
We make a grave mistake if we believe that tonight these results are somehow an embrace of the Republican Party. What they are is a second chance.
An election that raised as many questions as it answered. For the Obama White House, for a newly divided Congress, and for the very idea of compromise. Good evening. Well, by now you may have heard what happened on Tuesday, a wave so forceful that even political tsunami warnings didn't prepare Democrats for what it would actually feel like. Tonight, we'll attempt to tell you why it happened and what's next. The long and short of it, gridlock is so not over. Here's the best the White House could offer in the form of an olive branch.
Can you name today areas that you would be willing to compromise on that you might not have been willing to compromise on in the past?
Well, I think I've been willing to compromise in the past, and I'm going to be willing to compromise going forward on a whole range of issues.
Here was a Republican response.
The fact is, if our primary legislative goals are to repeal and replace the health spending bill, to end the bailouts, cut spending, and shrink the size and scope of government, the only way to do all of those things is to put someone in the White House who won't veto any of these things.
In the meantime, here is what at least one of the newcomers headed to Washington read into the election results.
I have a message. A message from the people of Kentucky. A message that is loud and clear and does not mince words. We've come to take our government back.
Back to where is the question the nation's lawmakers are now wrestling with. But first, the House, the Senate, and the White House have to sort themselves out, because in spite of all that transpired Tuesday, it appears the leadership ranks will only be reshuffled, not overhauled, starting with John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi, who will just in effect be switching gavels, Michael.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure it rises to reshuffling. 72 hours after one of the biggest political wipeouts in a long time, more than 60 years. I think, to put it generously, both sides are still trying to figure out their next steps. The president, who made some sounds, and I don't think they're anything more than sounds, at his press conference the other day about perhaps changing course in response to your question, didn't get very specific. And in fact, there are lots of questions about whether he wants to or even can. The Republicans on Capitol Hill have got a nifty, after 2 or 3 days, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Act going. We have a speaker who tried to start out by being conciliatory, and a majority leader who we saw who's anything but. And finally, tonight, this afternoon, the former House Speaker, still the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, decided instead of going away, the person who essentially launched 1,000 attack ads is going to stay around.
She didn't launch it.
They were launched about her.
Yeah.
The face that launched 1,000 attack ads is going to stay around, when I think a lot of people in the party would rather she stepped out.
It seems like different lessons were taken from each side from the same set of results.
Right. It's fascinating, actually, to listen to them as you showed some of these clips. The Republican mandate, as they see it, is to stop what President Obama was doing, to reverse course. The mandate you heard President Obama talk about was, it's time for us to work together. Those are very different ideas out of the same set of elections. And you can, of course, find in poll numbers, various things that will satisfy various interpretations. But the president's interpretation, of course, is one of weakness, coming out of a loss, a shellacking, as he put it, in which he's trying to find the best way forward. And when he says the voters want us to work together, what he means is, don't cut me out. I'm still relevant here, even though he wouldn't use that phrase.
Except that I do think that, and having been through a few of these tumultuous moments in Washington,
I got the sense in calling around to Democrats around the country, Democratic leaders, that they weren't quite as shell-shocked as they were, say, after the '94 elections, in part because they did see this one coming, but also, unlike a lot of these big wave elections where at the end almost all the close races go exactly the same way, in this case the Democrats did pull it out for some very high-profile governor's races and very high-profile Senate races. So I think they are looking at this and seeing it as perhaps a different kind of wave, and they are taking some solace in history that has shown that the electorate is in a very sort of almost unstable place.
It's almost more like a pendulum election than a change election.
Well, I mean, that's right. This is, if you I think of the last 5 midterm elections, 3 of them have been so-called wave elections. We're accustomed to a wave election being something that happens every couple of generations. This underscores, obviously, that we're in this period of radical fluidity. American politics is a jump ball. But, I mean, I think somebody would be in a state of denial as a Democrat if they saw, like, this wasn't necessarily such bad news. This was the biggest turnover since 1948 in the number of seats. In the House, and what's more, it went deep into the states. A liberal state like Minnesota has both its houses of its state legislature Republicans now. Through the industrial Midwest, Republicans in the state houses, governorships. This was a bad night for Democrats.
It was a bad night for incumbents, most especially if you were a Democrat, as you point out, because when you think about it, 53 of them lost their jobs. Compare that to only 3 Republicans. But add it up another way, as we did at the PBS NewsHour, and you'll discover Washington lost a combined 317 years of experience, including party leaders and committee chairmen. Of course, one person's experience is another's insider status, and in any case, it didn't help to have either of those labels attached to you this cycle.
Really tough to be an incumbent. Just a couple of facts, statistics from Ohio. This is a state where, interestingly enough, turnout went down between 2006.
Your home state.
Yes, it's true. It's a good bellwether, and don't forget, the president went there 15 times in the last 18 months, and both sort of sides closed out there. In congressional districts that usually go one way or the other by 2 or 3 points, they went Republican by 11, 12, 13. And even among voters who said that Wall Street was to blame for the economy, they broke almost 5-4 for Republicans. So you get this kind of, no matter who you are, no matter what you were running, if you were an incumbent, you were gone.